Welcome to Care for Families, where real conversations lead to meaningful support and community. Alzheimer's, a disease affecting millions and millions of Americans, a disease that is debilitating and emotionally devastating to watch. Join me today as I sit down with Cindy Gough, a friend that I've known for over 15 years. Join us for this emotional conversation to talk about grief and loss and anger and how that still lingers after she's lost her mom over a year ago. Thank you for being here for this difficult and emotional conversation. Cindy, I know you as a friend. I've known you for a long time. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited for our conversation. Again, I know you well, and I've known you for a while, and you've got a lot of things to discuss based on experiences. But first, for those who don't know, who is Cindy? Why are you here?
I think really when I think about that, it is, I have a big heart, which sometimes gets you in trouble. I trust people that what they say they're going to do. And that heart then leads me into doing what I do for a living. It leads me into taking care of people, especially my family. And God gave me 3 amazing children and 7 amazing grandchildren. And I have a big love heart. And when I was younger, I wanted to be a nurse. For that reason. And I really wanted to focus on the elderly, which is ironic now in this phase of my life. Never became a nurse, obviously, but I know that that is my passion for people, and I'm a problem solver, and I like to help people. And so I think that's me at a core.
You mentioned your kind of professional self. You touched on it. I know you to have experience working in long-term care facilities and nursing homes, but for probably 15 or 20 years, you've been a real estate agent, a lot of residential sales, kind of overseeing teams. And so you're really involved in the fabric of the community, kind of helping families with the buying and selling of homes. Talk a little bit about that. I know you, and we'll talk more about kind of aging parents and as you've aged and changed in stations. Talk about your approach to when to move aging parents. When do I downsize? What do I do with all their stuff? How do I have that conversation?
I think it's like I show homes for elderly people sometimes, and you can really tell when it is time. You go into a home and it's not in good shape. There's rotted food on the countertops, and the house is not well maintained. And as you start talking to the couple, I have one in particular that comes to mind. Neither one of them really know where they are. And yet they're taking care of themselves. And I think at that point, you really want to call, I really wanted to call their kids and say, hey, it is way past time at this point. And I think it's hard. My parents had a nice home. I'd moved them 5 minutes from me so that I could be there when something happened. But even their home, I should have noticed things sooner than I did. And it's a hard conversation. Because sometimes the parents everybody wants to stay in their home, right? The kids say, hey, let them stay there until something bad happens. And then you've got family dynamics that we all have. Kids think this way and one kid thinks this way. And so it makes it hard for that stage of life and that transition. And thank God I was a realtor, so I knew that we needed to get their stuff out and get it on the market, et cetera. But it's hard if you don't know all those resources.
I think one of the things that I've walked with you through in some ways professionally and in some ways personally is I was really fortunate enough to know your dad a little bit. Both mom and dad are now gone, but I was fortunate enough to know your dad, and your parents, at least from my vantage point, had a tremendous love story, right? I mean, dad was pastor, mom was pastor's wife. They were step in step. They were, and in that, as they age, there's a sense of agency that is pride and self-reliance and independence. And, but I've experienced personally and professionally, certainly, and watched you handle and navigate that quiet slip of loss of agency. And the idea is, like you say, you walk into a home and there's food on the counter that is not in good health, but But often we see that agency is slipping in time, and sometimes it's intentionally masked. I don't want to tell people what's going on. I don't want to let people into the fragility of my wife. But sometimes it's just it's eroded without us even being aware. You are fortunate enough that Dad was very sober of mind. But your mother ended up with advanced dementia. I don't know that it was ever a full-blown Alzheimer's diagnosis, but she had advanced dementia. And it was hard. I can make that as a statement because I watched you shoulder it. It was hard watching that when one parent is still having agency and another parent has lost agency, and the tension between, do we go to a nursing home? Do we lean into Dad that, yeah, this is okay. We can trust that he can manage whatever's going on. Talk a little bit about that and what that was like.
Yeah, I've kind of pictured that, and I've had some families that I've helped in buying and selling, plus in the past nursing home industry where I was. It's good to have the one parent that can still take care of things, but it's also very hard. Because in our case, Dad apparently knew about Mom's dementia almost a year before we did. And so they lived about 40 minutes from here, and they lived in a beautiful home that they built, but it was in the middle of nowhere. And I remember telling Dad specifically one time, at some point, Mom's going to find you on the ground, on the floor. Something's going to happen, and she doesn't drive. She doesn't know how to use a cell phone. She's out here in the middle of nowhere. And I cannot fathom how she would feel about that. She would not know what to do. She could be there for hours. And I said, if that's what you want, I was trying to talk them into coming in closer to town, then y'all can stay there. The next day, ironically, he calls and says, we're in Waco. We were thinking about driving around. We're thinking about moving to Waco. And so there's a way to get those people, your family, to think about things. And I hate to always go the worst case, but that's what it took for him. Later down the road, he did let us know that he had felt like he was running a nursing home for the last year, and he was not doing a very good job of it. And I think looking back on so many different things and comments and doctor's appointments that I was never invited to go to. I would go over to the house, and Mom looked like she'd just gotten out of bed, had on the same clothes for the last 3 days that I've seen her, shuffling her feet a lot, doing some of the things that it's not old age. That's a dementia diagnosis. And I remember calling in the mornings, and they wouldn't answer, and Dad would call me back at 11 and say, oh, we just got up. We stayed up all night watching movies, and we're just having breakfast. Well, what really had happened is now Mom had been up all night. And she had sundowners horribly at 6 o'clock every night. And it was like flipping a switch. And I think when he was trying to do this by himself, one, he was exhausted. And two, it was out of control. And so he hid that from us. And I get it, because he didn't want us to be concerned. But I, at the end, watched both of my parents crumbling in very different ways. And that's hard, and that's where you have a little bit of that anger that we didn't jump in earlier.
Hi, sorry for the interruption, but the purpose of these conversations is to create a sense of education and community. If you find this content meaningful, please like, subscribe, and share. Now, back to the conversation. So if I'm hearing you correctly, what we essentially have was, in your situation, and hindsight's 2020, but you have a sister that you're close with, but who's out of state. You're an adult daughter who's close, but not next door. You have a husband and wife who are fiercely independent, who love each other and will protect each other against all outside forces. And you are now looking back, realizing that there was much more fragility and fractures beginning to happen that you were aware of at the time, and navigating that now, as you said, brings up some anger. Talk more about that. Were there specific times that that it hit that, wait, this is not okay? What did that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. Now looking back, so many signs, right? I mean, and you just can't go back. And I think when we would ask Dad about how's mom, or, oh, she's taking a nap, he would tell us, or things, we just thought that that's what she's doing. Yeah. Right? They would miss events that they usually would come to.
Yeah.
And when I would ask, Dad would say, oh, mom had a headache, or her back hurts or something. In reality, it was probably just something she was hard to get dressed at that point. And much less take her somewhere. And it sure couldn't be an evening event because I just didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
Even though I was right here. I do remember a couple of times me being at home. One I remember specifically, I was out on the riding lawnmower.
Yeah.
And I just look and they've pulled up at my house.
Yeah.
And Dad said, oh, we're just riding around, getting some fresh air. Well, it was 7:00. And I'm sure he just needed to get her out of the house. And then a few times they would just come over to my house unexpectedly. And I think it was, he just needed a break, but just wouldn't ask for it.
Yeah.
And that's so hard. It's hard looking back.
What did you see in him physically?
At that time, still just trying to, I guess, pretend that everything was going to be okay. Yeah. Maybe it was going to be better. He looked good for a while until it wasn't. Yeah. And when we finally ended up, we were in the emergency room probably 3 or 4 times in 1 week, and just for various things, and they would never keep mom. You know, one time he said it was her back was hurting, and then it was something else, and they just kept sending her home, which he couldn't understand. And the reason was there was no reason to admit her.
Yeah.
And the last final straw was they kept her for 3 days.
Yeah.
And couldn't find anything, and just kind of hoping that they'd keep her. But doctor comes in there, getting ready to discharge her, and says he'd been in there maybe 10 minutes. And he's on his computer, and he says, what facility did she come from?
Yeah.
And my sister and I are like, oh, she's at home. Oh, with advanced dementia diagnosis, y'all are keeping her at home? And that was the first we'd heard of that.
Yeah.
And we both kind of looked at each other and exited the room, and it was just kind of shock.
Yeah. Is he present in the room?
Yeah, Dad's in the room. Very hard of hearing, so he was across the way. And then in a little bit, we brought him out, had a nurse go sit with mom, and we brought him out and told him. And he was like, oh, okay.
So you're in a room waiting to discharge mom, and the first thing you hear from an MD is it sounds like an understanding that you would have known that she had an advanced dementia.
He said, I could tell in the first 5 minutes.
And this was news to you and Mel. Yeah. You had no idea. And Dad's present, but Dad's not aware because he can't hear.
Right.
So you and Mel are now looking at each other in confusion and anger and surprise. I mean,
yeah. And we basically said, well, what are we going to do? And the doctor said, well, I guess you need to go find a facility.
Yeah.
But she's leaving the hospital today.
Yeah. And
so again, had we known and had we prepared and had we had a family discussion about it, not in an emergency room, we could have done things very different. And, and then to Dad's credit, he said, and I hear this all the time, I told Mom I'd never put her in a nursing home.
Yeah.
What you should be saying is, I will always take care of you.
Yeah.
I will make sure I always take care of you. But what ended up happening with us is Dad just, he was a caregiver and not a husband.
Yeah.
He was no longer a dad because he didn't have that capacity. And it just was different for everybody.
Yeah.
And eventually it was just a lot of grief.
Yeah. So there's a lot there that I want to kind of unpack. As you guys leave the room and you say, we got to talk with Dad, how does Dad respond to realizing that you guys know the secret? Because I don't want to say he'd been lying up to that point.
Sure.
But he'd been lying up to that point.
Yeah.
To himself, to y'all.
Yeah.
And so now now it's out.
Yeah, and I think he'd been so independent, they had for so long, that he just kept thinking he could still do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wish he would have cried out for help at some point. One of those days when they just showed up, I wish he would have said, I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
And it just waited too long. But I think at that point, he just kind of said, okay, what do we need to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And being in that background, I had the background of that. I knew we've got to go tour some facilities. We've got to figure out how we're going to pay for this, all the things. And really not realizing that we needed memory care.
Was it hard, or did you see, knowing your dad, and I wish I could kind of ask him this now in a different way, but I see your dad as always the shepherd, the pastor, the supporter, the caregiver. Yeah. Bring me your burdens as I
right.
And what a role reversal. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder if some of that for him, mm-hmm. the I can handle this, wasn't necessarily machismo as much as just, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. And to your point, we make promises to people. Mm-hmm. I'll never put you in a home without ever really understanding mm-hmm. what we're saying. Yeah. It's easy to say, I love you, but not really understanding what that really means. Right? So I look at your dad and often when I would see him at times go, what a weight that you carried for my grandfather was the same way. My grandmother had MS. And so, but he was a pastor, what a weight that you shoulder for the flock, that's right. the community, everybody around you. And inside, you just need somebody to say, I see you, mm-hmm. I hear you, I will mm-hmm. stand with you and I will support you. Mm-hmm. But help is so foreign as the recipient. Yeah. And I have to think that was part of what he couldn't articulate and maybe didn't even feel, but mm-hmm. had to be carrying. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
Yeah. And I think you flip that though. And then I have the guilt of not paying attention to going, hey, Dad, there's something wrong here. Yeah. Or, hey, I know you said this, but it appears to be this. And I wish I would have been stronger to say that sooner. But I also know my dad, who was trying to protect everybody. And he would just say, she's tired or she's overexhausted or she's, and so it was just kind of a weird dynamic.
But now in sobriety, you didn't why?
I think probably because he was always so strong and so good at, they were very proud people. And if he said, here's what we're doing, I just assume that's what you're doing. I don't know. It's hard. Because then I'm thrown into it full force. There's nothing hidden at this point. But I really, I just trusted that, what he was saying was true. And many times when I tried to get somebody to come clean the house, he would say, you know what, I need something to do. I'll clean the house. Yeah. Many times he canceled that. And I realize now he just didn't want someone in the house because he never really knew how Mom was going to feel that day. Yeah. And it breaks my heart to think of what his days and nights were like, just because he wouldn't talk to me. Yeah. And then to think about my sweet mother, partially she knew what was going on, partially she didn't. Yeah. Scared. Yeah. Crying. 1 minute she is crying with Dad and I because she loves us and all the things, and the next thing she's at dinner pointing her finger and saying that we're trying to kill her and that we're the devil and those things. And it was just so hard to watch my dad listen to that. Yeah. And knowing that what you saw compared to what you probably didn't see has to be, in some ways, when you mention the word guilt, your word, that has to be a thread that ties back the feeling of because I hear you say, looking back, it was very obvious. Mm-hmm. But in that moment, I just didn't see it. Yeah. And now realizing that, man, he shouldered that for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I was present. I was available. I was engaged. I just didn't. And there was resources. If he'd have just shared with us. One, we could have had a full year with our mom, knowing that was going to be, the last. But I remember telling him one time about nursing homes, and I said, they're there for a reason. Yeah. I know people hate them, but it allows you to be a husband.
Yeah.
And it would allow you to have some free time. And then when you come to see her, you could enjoy that more. But it partly because they were older, and that's just their generation that they could take care of things.
Did he ever process that loss of role with you in any capacity? Because after you lost mom, you and dad stayed close. He lived with you and near you. I mean, like, did he ever in any way formalize or come to terms with his loss of husband to caregiver? Or do you think he ever even saw it, acknowledged
I think he
it?
just thought he was doing the right thing by staying with her as long as he could. Now, remember, he actually moved into the facility with her at the beginning.
Yeah.
They sold their home, and he wanted to be in independent living at a facility. And I think that lasted maybe a couple of days, and the nurses said she needs to be in memory care.
Yeah.
So he went from living in a home, being independent, taking care of her, to independent living, to now he is in memory care with her.
Yeah.
And he just could never let go of letting someone else take care of her.
Yeah.
And it made him, I felt like it aged him 10 years just at that time, because it was bad.
Did your view of him change? I mean, I think of daughter Cindy young. I think of Cindy young adult. I think of, new moms. I mean, like our views of our parents change in time. I know that's certainly true for me. I see my parents differently now than I would have earlier, 20, 30 years ago. But now looking back with dad and navigating that transition, do you see him differently now than you would have before mom's diagnosis, or a understanding of what he carried?
Yeah.
And hid from you and Mel.
There's a weird dynamic of love and anger at the same time, a little bit. What he shouldered and carried is sad, but there was a way for him not to do that. So I wish he would have come to us. But I saw my mom different. It's almost like a role reversal. Now I'm taking care of her. I went to the facility many times, and dad would be in the other room, and he'd call me, and I'd go lay in bed while she was crying, and I just rub her hair and talk to her. And it was almost like we reversed the roles, mother-daughter. And I got to spend some time with her when she still knew, but many times she didn't know that I was her daughter. We took a book with all of the pictures of grandkids and the things, and we'd look through them, and most of the time she wasn't sure. She'd pick up a face every now and then, but and so I had a different feeling for her at that time, because I just could see this childlike personality coming out in her.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was upset with my dad that we didn't know about this sooner.
Yeah.
It was a hard time.
Yeah.
Hard time.
When you mentioned, her beginning to lose her knowledge of who you are, I can't fathom that in my station. What does that feel like? How do you put that into words?
Well, I'll let you tell the stories so I don't cry, but you can tell my story.
Well, I've heard you tell the story that there was a day early where you knew something, but you picked mom up and you guys had a girls' day on a Saturday. So shopping, nails, hair. And as you take her home, you pull in the driveway, and she looks over and touches your arm and says, "I just have to tell you, this is the best day I've had in a long time." And your chest just swells because you brought mom joy. And then she says, "One day when my daughter Cindy's in town, I would really like for you to meet her, because I think she would really love you." And it was in that moment that you realized, my mom doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
And I think we see that a lot.
Yeah.
But seeing it and feeling it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the feel.
And she was so sweet about it. She was so generally meant that. I want you to meet my daughter. And I would go into the facility sometimes, and she would say, "You remind me of Cindy." She did that with my sister as well. But that is when you really go, we are never going back to it. This is our new norm.
Yeah.
And so childlike. I mean, she believed everything about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we were getting our toes done at the salon right before that, she was laughing with the people and talking, and they were talking about how cute she was and how sweet she was, and the fact that she had her best day ever, but didn't realize that whole time that she was with me.
Yeah.
You know, and that was, I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Is that part of where anger towards dad comes from? The idea that like he can't change that.
Yeah.
But had you known earlier,
Oh, yeah.
you could have had more time with her.
Yeah.
And her being present, not just her being present physically.
Yeah, because there were times that you would talk to her and you kind of go, well, that seemed weird, but for a big part of the conversation, it was good.
Yeah.
I remember calling her after one of my high school friends died, and she knew her very well, obviously. And I called and said I was just leaving her funeral, and it was really sad, and so-and-so was there, and I would tell her, and then she went, oh, okay, well, did I tell you what I was watching on TV today?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so odd that you didn't comment on that.
Yeah.
It was just slow signs of that. And, just heartbreaking that we didn't have more time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when they moved in with me, that was so in my face, obviously, to see her behavior and how things changed. And she would go to the window and just stare out the window forever. And then nighttime was awful, but she had on a sweater one time. I remember she was sitting on the couch, and I went over and put my arm around her and I said, do you want something to eat? And she said, I have on Dad's girlfriend's sweater. I said, Dad's girlfriend? Yeah, he has a girlfriend. I said, Mom, I bought you that sweater. Remember? So I gave it to you for your birthday. Nope. And she would go down the rabbit hole, and it was so hard to bring her back and quit talking about the sweater. And so I became it was like a toddler in your house again.
Yeah.
And one night she is demanding she go outside, and it's dark and it's cold, and I have video of me trying to get her to keep the door shut. And finally I just told Dad, I said, I'm going to walk outside with her. And I think at that point he was done too. He was tired. He stayed in the house. And she walked around the side of my house with her hands on the brick and was saying, you're gonna kill me, aren't you? And I want out of here. And she went down the fence line, and I said, Mom, we need to go in. It's cold. And she said, get away from me. And if my mom could have seen how she was acting, if she could have seen how she ended up falling and hitting her head, and then when I tried to pick her up, she scooted on her rear on the sidewalk and said, get away from me, you're the devil. And I know you're just out here trying to kill me. If she could have seen that and seen how hard it was for Dad and us, and seen that picture before she really got bad, she would be heartbroken that her family had to go through that.
Well, there's grace that she didn't.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I remember when I was in the nursing home business, it was almost like we wish our dementia patients either could remember nothing, because the ones that could remember a little here and there.
Yeah.
One lady came up every day to my office and sat there waiting for her husband to pick her up. And he had passed away. And every time we told her he wasn't coming, she'd show up the next day. And it was almost like you wish she could forget about her husband, because it was hard when she realized he wasn't coming.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt like Mom was.
Yeah.
She remembered enough to be scared and enough to know she wasn't in her place and something was wrong.
Yeah.
But not enough just to try to enjoy the last bit she had.
Yeah. You mentioned Dad, him losing his role reversal, I'm no longer a husband, but I am a husband to a caregiver. And what you talk about Mom being in your home and it being like a toddler, but you as a grandmother experience your toddler grandchildren very differently than you do your toddler mom. Mm-hmm. Your loss of role, your loss of daughter, your what does that feel like? What do you when you look back on it then versus when you see it now? What is that? What's that like?
Part of me is glad that I had them in my house for a little bit.
Yeah.
When I look back, it was really not good for her. The change, she needed routine, as we all know. She didn't have good eating habits and scheduled. I didn't have activities going on,
Yeah.
Finally got a caregiver to come in, and that helped relieve Dad a little bit, helped relieve me a little bit. I remember one day Dad finally went out and got on the lawnmower, and I was cooking, and she was sitting there with a caregiver playing a game.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I remember thinking, just a little piece for both of us. And had we known this, they could have stayed in their home for longer, and we could have had a caregiver come in.
Yeah.
But when I mentioned that to Dad at one point, he said, "I don't want someone walking around my house."
Yeah.
Well, our option then is to go to a facility.
Yeah.
And had he just said, "Yeah, let's try this," where Mom could have stayed there, and the things that she knew, and we had to move her 3 different times, and every time we moved her, it got worse.
Yeah.
And just the things we could have done.
Yeah.
Just didn't. And so I, for those people that I know now that are in my situation with their families, so many different ways you could handle it.
Yeah.
And could have had some joy at the end. And at the end, we were all so tired.
Yeah.
And the grieving had come probably way before she ever passed away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's a different grief afterwards, especially when Dad lived with me. It was hard.
Yeah. I heard somebody the other day say that they knew somebody that, their death process, if you will, was long. ALS, MS, Alzheimer's, dementia sometimes, and the idea that, that's hard on them, but probably better for me because I have time to process it and say the things I want to say and all that. In some ways, it sounds like you kind of felt both. Like I have some time with Mom, but I didn't get enough time because we didn't talk about it early, and that we often see that. It's like, well, I need help from Mom, and we're like, man, you really needed help 6 months or a year ago, but we can't change it now. We just kind of gotta get in, and we see people that are resistant to help until they have to have it, and it could have been preventative instead of urgent.
Yeah, and you don't want to end up like us in a hospital when they're wanting to discharge your mom and there is no plan.
Yeah.
And so when you see the signs and when you see things that you put the plan together, and I have family that have kept their loved one at home who had Alzheimer's and for years.
Yeah.
And they didn't go out. They didn't go to church anymore. He had no life. He was a full-time caregiver. And as there's just other resources and ways to enjoy your family.
Yeah.
And so I've, when I think too, the guilt part of it.
Yeah.
I remember the first conversation Dad and I had about Mom being on hospice. In reality, it was my idea.
Yeah.
We went up to the facility every day, and all she did was sleep. And Dad wanted her to get better. And I was like, this is her. She's not eating. She's not going to wake up. And now it haunts me that maybe we put her on hospice too soon.
Yeah.
Maybe that wasn't the right decision.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guilt with that.
Yeah.
And so that's something that probably will haunt me for a long time.
Yeah, you mentioned guilt several times in this conversation. Yeah. What do you do with it? I mean, I hear haunt me for a long time, but what practically do you do with the guilt? Yeah.
I don't know. Do things different.
Yeah.
I would never want my kids to go through that.
Yeah.
So. I think the only consolation I have is that I did the best I could.
You did.
No, it's one thing to be in healthcare working with other families at the different churches. And, everybody has a different opinion what you should do. And what you were sitting there with me and Dad that day. And it was, I think he needed to hear it from you.
Yeah.
I'd been saying it for days, and until he saw you, and I think Jennifer was there. Then it's kind of a light bulb goes off and goes, okay, we probably should do this.
Yeah.
And you feel bad that your parents didn't. I mean, that was my background. I had been in this scene right here many times, and the fact that your dad did not think that that you could make the good decision, I think that was kind of hurtful. But he's also in a whole different mindset at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder is that, and we will never know, right?
No.
But I think what I hear you almost touch on is the feeling of a sense of almost like he didn't trust the professional side of you. But I think the other side of him that I knew that you know, and you've articulated even in some ways, is he was ultimately always the protector too.
Yeah.
And so he was shielding you
Everybody.
from even the conversation, which felt so right to him, but felt so wrong.
Yeah.
Now in retrospect, not only for him, but to y'all and everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think back, Mom's been gone now for 4 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
When you think back now, if you could have every lived experience you have, and you could go back and talk with Cindy of 10 years ago, Dad of 10 years ago, and Mom of 10 years ago, what would you say to each of those people, knowing what you know now?
It's not a burden that you have to carry by yourself.
Yeah.
And for someone, again, to have been in that profession and always wanting to take care of everyone, you've done that your whole life.
Yeah.
Now let's be a team here and put together some plans.
Yeah.
I remember one Christmas, we were all together and he wanted to talk about their finances and their wills. And he was very adamant that they all get signed. And I know now then he knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And I would have said, look, nobody knows how long they have, right? But let's take whatever time we have and do some fun stuff, do some things Mom always wanted to do, some things Dad wanted to do. Instead, we just got thrown into this ugly mess of how do we make decisions and who's making them and who do we trust and what should we do? And it was just really, it never really got stable.
Yeah.
It just, and I lost, of course, just, I think I went to the nursing home every day after work and I felt like that was all consuming my little world.
Yeah.
And there's some anger in that too.
Sure.
We could have done this very different. And, I don't know, I will always be open with my own kids.
Yeah.
And, there's a difference in aging and a difference in having something like that, a disease that it was never going to get better.
Yeah.
And that's what I kept telling Dad. It's not like she's going to wake up one day and this is gone.
Yeah. This isn't a rehab situation.
And it's only going to get worse. And we just, we weren't prepared.
Yeah.
And so many things I wish we'd have done different.
Yeah. So we can't change the past.
No.
How do you live differently? You mentioned a little bit about the kids and conversation and planning, but how do you steward yourself and your care and your relationships with your kids better, knowing what you know now?
I think that obviously very transparent. Went through a cancer diagnosis, and I was, they were the first people I wanted to tell. I didn't try to hide them from that. And so I learned that through my situation. I also really just want to share the story of don't do what we did.
Yeah.
And when I go into elder, homes and I'm working with clients, and I also want to be a good resource now because I know things that I didn't know. But it's hard to transition your parents when I know they want to stay at home. I get that.
Yeah.
But here's what I found in my situation.
Yeah.
The sad thing was that Dad was still very healthy.
Yeah.
And Mom was really healthy except for this.
Yeah.
And so her mind went out before her body. And, but it's hard to, when you're the husband watching your wife, it's hard to feel like that you want to make a decision that drastic, because you know when you're driving to the facility, and I remember my sister telling me this, Dad knew in his mind that she was never coming home.
Yeah.
And they drove there, and Mom's dressed thinking she's going somewhere with Dad. And instead she's going to a facility that she's never going to leave.
Did he ever talk about that with you?
Yeah. He didn't also get to see her for 7 days. They wouldn't let her see her because they wanted her to acclimate to the facility and the structures and all the things. And thank God I was out of town for a business trip, so my sister came and stayed with him. It was probably the worst 7 days of ever, she said, because he just had lost someone he'd been with for 60 plus years. He no longer had control. He no longer could take care of her. He was no longer the shepherd taking care of his. And it was rough. It was rough.
And I assume it sounds like they had very much a marriage where they were kind of always together.
Always together. Dad preached and Mom played the piano, and Mom didn't work for years and years, and she didn't drive. So everywhere Dad went, she went.
So 7 days apart in their 50s, when they're cognitively competent and everything's good, would be hard.
Yeah.
But 7 days apart after 6 years of marriage, knowing one of them is in a very fragile state, and I've tried to protect her, and I can't. I can't fathom how debilitating that was for him and how scary that was for her.
But you also knew, being him, you also knew that she was cognitive enough to know that she wasn't where she was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And when he would call to check on her, that's what they would say. She cried a lot today. She didn't cry as much today. We found her asleep on the floor. Everyone's in bed, but she's walking the halls, crying for him. And so you wish at that point she just would have not known
what was going on. Yeah.
And so that was hard for him. And then by the time he really was able to go see her, she was not, cried a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just scared. She was so scared.
Yeah.
So it was tough.
When you look back on that season of Mom and Dad's transitions, who cared for Cindy? Who listened to you? Who met you where you were? Who supported you? Who?
I think all your friends and family say that, let me know if I can do anything. And they mean that.
Sure.
They for sure mean that. But when your dad calls and says, hey, are you going to church this morning? And I said, well, I plan to. Do you think you can come over here? Sure. I remember walking in and he's sitting there and I said, where's Mom? And he said, she's in there. In bed, horribly upset, crying, screaming. She doesn't know where she is. Who else is going to do that, right?
Yeah.
You don't call your friend and go, hey, my mom's crying. Can you run over there? And I stayed there all day. I remember it. And so there isn't really anybody taking care of you. I think when we brought the caregiver in the house, that was the first time I really felt like I can get a break.
Yeah.
And I think people are praying for you and all the things, but you really feel like during that season of life that it's you and your sister, but because of just the nature of where we were in relation to location, it really is you.
Yeah.
And nobody else gets it.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell your dad this? Why don't you do this for your mom? Tell Dad that he should do this. And it's just hard. It's hard to give advice when you don't really know. But everybody wants to help. It's just hard.
We have a habit, and it's righteous and it's genuine, that we want to help. But most of the ways we want to help is by talking and not listening. Is what I found. And I think it's so much harder to just sit with somebody and just listen and not try to fix their pain.
Yeah.
Not say it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Not say she's in a better place.
Yeah. No.
Just be. I have a friend who had cancer years ago, and she told me the story that similarly, she was young children, and so many friends reached out and said, hey, what can I do? What can I do? And she was nothing.
Yeah.
She was not unhealthily proud, but she was proud and trying to take care of her, didn't want to be a burden, all the good things we say. But she tells a story, and I've mentioned it on this channel before, that she had a friend show up in mud boots and a bucket and said, "We're washing your hair today. You're getting in the shower." And she said, in that moment, I felt so seen in a way that I hadn't articulated, but it wasn't that she asked me what she could do. And so I say all that to say, I think we do often lose who's taking care of the caregiver in those situations because there's so much focus on the patient or the client.
Yeah.
And I put that as a juxtaposition of when you mentioned earlier you went through cancer not long after all this. Mom's sick, we lose mom, we hold on to dad for a while, and then we lose dad, and then you end up with cancer. I think that you had people take care of you differently when it was your cancer, versus when it was you taking care of your mom, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's that we see you as needing care with cancer, and we don't do as good of a job of seeing you needing care because you're emptying your cup in a caregiver role. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair. I think that, and so many people, and I do it too. How's your mom? No, she's not doing good today. How's your dad? Well, he's doing okay. Great.
Yeah.
And then we move on. And this has all taught me also to be very intentional about when someone's going through something, especially cancer, breast cancer. I want to be there. I want to hear you, especially with your parents, dementia, those kind of things. So it has taught me that, to be a better listener. I think that, like you said, people mean well. People love you, right? They want to help you. In this situation, it was just hard to say what we needed.
Yeah.
And people would say, "You're my best friends. What do you need?" I need a break from life.
Yeah.
I want to run away. It's just hard to ask because you really don't know what you need at that point.
Yeah, and we're often reluctant to help.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We often, even when somebody well-intentioned that we trust and we love and is trying to do the right thing, we often find ourselves in our arrogance, ignorance, whatever, turn around, no, it's okay. Like, I'm okay. And we're clearly not okay, but we have this need. I don't know if it's self-preservation or whatever, dad, the shepherd, right? No, we're okay. Dad, you're not okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah. It's such a hard conversation to have, to be real transparent with someone and say, hey, this is not okay, what we're doing, or this is okay, what we're doing, because people already have in their mind, like I said, I'm doing the best I can. Yeah. But you walked up to me and said, look, here's what you need to do. You need to do X, Y, Z. Even if that's probably right, I'm so deep in it now, I can't think straight. And that's where we kind of ended up, I think.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard, and it's messy. I think we think of care sometimes as easy, or I come by it naturally because of my role, right? I'm a spouse. This is what I do. Till death do us part. Better for worse, sickness and health. I mean, but there is an art and a skill sometimes to really being able to sit with somebody and care for them, and in some ways quiet the noise. I think those situations can be hard and chaotic, and dare I say noisy, and so again, the ability to just be present and sit and say, hey, it's okay not to be okay. And that's not an accusation or judgment. And then finding ways to try to support and give some reprieve. Yeah.
I think it's even harder when you see both of them, like I said, just crumbling in different ways. Yeah. And you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
These two strong people that you've grown up with and were great parents and all the things, and you can't fix it.
Yeah, and so much loss. I mean, I think about your dad. I mean, he lost part of his soul in losing her. Sure. He lost his wife. He lost so many memories. He lost so many very positive experiences that became kind of, I assume, dark and heavy. I mean, there was a whole nother woman.
Well, he also doesn't have a home anymore.
That's right. He lost, and there's so much that he lost.
We sold the home, all the contents. They moved in, and when she passes away, and he said it to me a few times, I shouldn't be living with my daughter. I shouldn't be 89 years old living with my daughter. And I said, well, Dad, this is where we are right now. Until you want to go buy another house, this is where we are. Many nights I'd get home from work, and he's sitting on the front porch in the rocking chair. And we would stay out there till 11 o'clock at night talking about Mom, things that he saw,
Yeah.
guilt.
Yeah.
We'd cry out there, but then you go to bed, you're exhausted, you get up and go to work the next day. And so it's hard to be the grief counselor.
Yeah.
And that just, it was another layer of hurt. And because what do you say? She's in a better place.
Yeah.
Even though we know she is, but it's hard. And Dad would never go to grief counseling, even though there was some opportunities for that, because I still think he's proud.
Yeah.
And he can handle it on his own.
Yeah.
And such good resources, but you just got to take advantage of them.
Yeah. Well, Cindy, I value your friendship. You are a treasure to those who know you. You are a treasure to this community.
Mm-hmm.
I am greatly burdened by your experience because it's not necessarily even unique to you, but it is your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we try to navigate very difficult healthcare journeys
Mm-hmm.
On our own in a collective, and there's a real weight. And hearing the guilt and the anger, I'm so glad you got time with Dad, even in the hard conversations on the porch. Right, there's so much that you still get to carry forward with that. But again, I can say I feel like I got to know Dad. I don't think I got to know Mom. I met Mom, but I never knew Mom.
Yeah.
But I think I reference you often as somebody who did the best they could with what they had, and the deck was kind of stacked against them.
Yeah.
And so it's hard, and I appreciate you being willing to share your story and share your testimony.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Care for Families. Whether you're caring for a parent, supporting a spouse, helping a friend, or simply planning for the future, we're honored you chose to spend your time with us today. We know caregiving can be complicated, emotional, and sometimes overwhelming, but you don't have to navigate it alone. Our hope is that these conversations provide practical guidance, encouragement, and confidence for the journey ahead. If you found value in today's conversation, we invite you to subscribe, share it with someone who may benefit, and join us again next time. Until then, take care.